Check, check.
And she reminded me that that song was a song I used to listen to often. It takes you on this journey, right? That's the teaching. That's the gift. And so thank you so much, Reverend Jean Marie, for doing that. You just took us on a journey, and I feel like everything's already been said. So that was wonderful. So this morning, y'all trust me to walk and hold a mic at the same time? I know, I don't. This is going to be a challenge, y'all. Let's see if I can do it. Okay, so the series is Trust is Underneath It All. Trust is underneath it all. And in the annual meeting, y'all know I talked about our movement into the future is moving into our prosperity consciousness and our prayer consciousness. In the prosperity consciousness I've talked about before in series, we've said and we've learned that prosperity isn't just the money in our bank or the money that isn't in our bank, right? That's not what it is. It's a trusting. It's a trusting of life. It's a trusting of God moving in us and through us and as our one source. And notice the word I kept using, trust. Trust. And so as I was working towards September, I thought, oh, trust, right? That's that first step into that consciousness is trust. And so what does my life look like, and what has it looked like when it comes to trust? And I shared with you guys my complicated relationship to trust. And for me, and like all of us, it comes from our family of origin, right? That's where we learn it all. Amen? We learn it all. And I said that my father had a very precarious relationship with trust. He was the type where, you know, in Spanish people say, mi casa es tu casa, my house is your house. If somebody, and my sisters, I have two sisters here, y'all. My eldest is here. They remember. I know. If somebody knocked on the door, I can't say what he would say. It was an expletive. How about that? Que, fill in the word, viene a mi casa. Who, fill in the worst word you know, is at my door. What does that tell you? Is he trusting? No, probably not. So my own relationship to trust was complicated and precarious, and I talked about a relationship I got myself into, and when it was over and luckily got myself out of, I thought, how can I trust myself? If I allowed myself to be in a relationship that was unhealthy and toxic, how can I trust myself? And so I went on this journey of discovery, thankfully, of self-discovery. And thankfully, Jan Van Sant was on a show, and I told y'all this, called Starting Over. And I would sit in front of the TV with a journal, and I would take notes. Because I was at the bottom, starting over. So we talked about self-trust and what that is, and it's a journey, right? And it's a journey of discovery. And what I've learned, and what I learned in that, is that it's also a journey of trusting God. It's a symbiotic relationship. As you trust yourself, you trust God. As you trust God, you trust yourself. It's one and the same. It's a beautiful, beautiful practice when we choose to practice it, right? It's a beautiful practice. So today what I want to talk about is trust in God, right? Beyond borders, like the song says, beyond borders, trusting in God. And I'm inspired by, and if you have the app, you already know this, Trust, by guess who? Iyanla Van Zandt. She is an ordained minister, by the way, a New Thought minister. And so I'm really been inspired by what she says. And in the book, she talks about trust in 4 places in our life. First, ourself, then God, then others, then in life. So this morning, it's trusting in God. And one of the things she said is to trust in God is you have to look at what did you inherit when it comes to God? What were you told about God? What did the family of origin say to you about God? So the first step is take an honest inventory of what you were told about God. What were you told about the nature of God? Was it a judgmental God? I see some of you saying it was. It was a judgmental God. So that God's not going to serve you now, right? So take an inventory of God. That's what she asks us to do. Because what we're being asked to do is to move into an adult relationship of God. And then she says, be curious about the God you need to awaken right now. What's the God you need? As I say this and I think about this, I think about our God panel when we had several people up here talking about their God. Y'all remember that? And our board president, Jan Couture, said she decided she needed to fire her God. Remember that? She needed to fire that God and then come to a God that actually worked for her and supported her. So be curious, what is that God you need right now? And know that our teaching in unity is a benevolent God. You know that, right? And it's a God that is the very being and what's underneath it all and is a source energy that we co-create with. And because we know God is good, we know that we are good. We are also sacred. That's beautiful and perfect, right? We all need to know that right now and all times. Everyone needs to know that. And then be willing. Willing to build that relationship, right? Be willing to do the practice, whatever that practice is for you. Prayer, meditation, all of it. Showing up here, right? That's part of the practice, showing up together. So as you think about these things, I also am going to give you an affirmation because every Sunday I do, and I know you work with them all week, and that I know y'all do. And it's in the app. Thank you. See? Reverend Jean Marie knows. It's in the app. It's all in the app, y'all. So I am letting go of. What are you letting go of? I'm not going to tell you what to let go of. You know what it is. Okay, maybe I'll tell you. I can't help myself. An old concept of God that doesn't work for me. Fear, worry, pain. And so I'm letting go of whatever that is for you. I know what it is for me. I'm letting go beliefs that I'm not supposed to age and look aged. I'm letting go of. And then I'm letting God be the moving and healing force in my life. I'm letting go of whatever that is, and I'm letting God be the healing, moving power in my life. And just breathe that in. And that's your affirmation for the week and for now. So first, I want to talk about what I was told about God and how that affected me. I've shared with you guys that I'm really grateful for one of the wonderful things I inherited from my mom, and that was faith. My mom had faith. My mom believed that God was someone that offered comfort and was a helper. My mom had a prayer for life, and I inherited that from her. And at the same time, my mom had this belief that you are to suffer to deserve. Other people, wow. Am I not the only one that was raised with that? Raise your hands, y'all. Oh, were y'all all Catholic? Okay. Thank you, guys. It's helpful to know these things, right? So, and in Spanish is hay que sufrir para merecer. That's what it was in Spanish. Hay que sufrir para merecer. So it kind of goes in contradiction, doesn't it? But we're human and we're complicated. That's a reality. We're human, we're complicated. So how does that show up? Well, in her life, the way it showed up is she has to suffer. She has to suffer. Doesn't matter what it is, she's going to suffer over it. Even if it's not something to suffer over, she's going to suffer over it. Because the ideology, the belief underneath is, I have to suffer so that I will deserve something good, right? And so there are ways that I picked that up. I know I did. I have to suffer in how I do work. I have to suffer in how, whatever it is, right? Choose it. And then what I know is, especially summer. I have to suffer in the summer because it's hot, y'all. I have to suffer. Anybody else suffering with me? Right? Right? I'm in an air-conditioned room, and I'm like, I'm suffering because it's hot outside. It's a choice, though. It's a choice. I can also choose to see my life as ease and grace and knowing that God is that ease and grace moving through me. Right? It's a big one. It's a choice. So that's my origin story when it comes to God. And that one doesn't work for me. So in Unity, we know what Unity co-founder says, and it's from this book, Dynamics for Living. Some of y'all like show and tell, right? Dynamics for Living. So what our co-founder says is we must relieve our minds of a personal God ruling over us in an arbitrary, man-like manner. I'll say it again. We must relieve our minds of a personal God ruling over us in an arbitrary, man-like manner. God is not a person, but principle. By principle is meant definite, exact, unchangeable. So let me unpack that. That means the God in the Sistine Chapel, the God that Da Vinci painted, is not God. That's what that means. God is not an anthropomorphic being. Now, I'm not ever here to take away what works for you. I'm not ever here to do that. What I am here to do is expand definitions, expand your learning, expand awakening, and expand mine as well. So when he says God is principle, he's saying that it's like math, right? Math principle, 2 + 2 = 4. That's only ever going to equal 4. It doesn't matter who does it, it's going to equal 4. That means it's unchanging, right? It's absolutely unchanging. That's a beautiful thing. So that also means that we all have access to God. There isn't any favor. It's not God favors me because I'm doing something good, I'm suffering, right? God's not favoring them because look at how happy they are. That's not how that works. It's God is accessible to everyone and everything as a life energy. How does that work for y'all? Right? It's a beautiful thing. It expands us. It really does. So, and we know that in our first principle, God is all there is and present everywhere. God is the force of love, power, intelligence, and wisdom that underlies all of existence. And so that's another willingness, right? We have to be willing to believe that. And once we're willing to believe that and we truly believe it, then we become willing to trust it. Have you noticed that? And then once you trust it, what do? But you co-create with it. That's how that works. So Iyanla Van Zant said that in the beginning of her journey of building her relationship with God, that she decided, actually a teacher told her, just watch nature. Watch the natural world. If you watch the natural world, you'll see how God works. And see, she saw, oh wow, look at that. Day just goes into night. Just works that way. Day goes into night. Or one of the things I like to think is look at trees. I learned so much from trees. They have their foundation. They don't doubt the foundation. It just is, right? And then think about the leaves, how they move with the wind. They don't fight with the wind. You know how sometimes we fight with stuff? They don't fight with it. They just move with it gracefully, right? That's the ease and the grace. And then in the fall, what do the leaves do? They fall, they wither. They just let it happen. They don't fight with the leaves that are falling. So it's a beautiful practice. And she says, think about winter. What are we doing in winter? We slow down, we rest, we prepare for the new growth of spring. In summer, we're meant to have fun, meant to learn, meant to be in the present moment because it will end, right? Those of us who have young ones in school are like, what? Is school really starting? And then the fall, the leaves fall, and we prepare. So the idea is that there's this law is always happening, always operating, always creative, always expansive, and it takes us to be willing to be in it and to use it. That's the law. So my second point is building a relationship with God. The only way to build that trusting relationship is to develop a spiritual practice that sustains you. So she offers, Iyanla Vanzant offers some cornerstones of that. And she says to be committed. That makes sense, right? We have to be committed to doing it. One of the things she also says is to have no expectation. That's good, right? No expectation. And I love that. Because what that means is when you're sitting in your practice, it's not that you're there expecting with this heart kind of, oh my God, right? Is this going to come? That's not what it is. What comes, comes. And your only thing that you're doing in that moment is to be in alignment. To be in alignment with the mystery, with life, even with yourself. Because it brings out that authenticity, the deeper that you already are. And then she asks us to ask some questions. When will you do your practice? How long will you spend in your practice? I know when I started meditating, the meditation teacher would say, 5 minutes. Just start with 5 minutes. And it builds, and it builds, and it builds. And now I want to be in meditation all the time. It builds. And we are in meditation all the time when we have a practice, to tell you the truth. What will you do during your practice? Breath work, prayer, meditation, guided meditation, silent meditation, inspirational reading. What will you do in the practice? How many of you already have that practice? I love it. So many, right? So many of us do the practice. And then, where will you practice? Where will you practice? And one thing I'm going to say is you come here to practice, right? You come here to know. You come here to be. You come here to trust. You can trust it's a loving, safe space. You can trust that. You can trust that we are here to hold you up. You can trust I'm doing my emotional and spiritual work. You can trust that we have inspirational music. You can trust that Keith is going to laugh and make us laugh, right? It's a trusting place. So it's where we build that together. And then the other thing that I want to say is that when we practice trusting together, we know that we're a loving and kind community. And one of the other ways we can trust is even how we share our baskets. Where are our ushers? There they are in the back. Okay. Here's another practice. Here's another practice I want us to add to that. As those baskets go around, they'll go from one person to the next. Put your hands on top of them and give your loving energy to that. And what you're doing is giving your loving energy and trusting that this place has exactly what it needs, because that's prosperity consciousness, to move forward. And know that in the law of circulation, as you give, you receive. So what you're also doing is standing in that symbiosis. Ooh, I used a big word. That symbiosis. You're standing in the symbiosis of the giving and the receiving, right? Amen? So that's what we're going to do. So like some of you at the end, you're going to have to turn around and give it to your neighbor in the back. I hope y'all are okay with that. Just turn around and then it'll go back up. Then you'll turn around. Okay. I trust y'all will do that. So I want to end with something that I came across that I thought was quite funny. Everything I needed to know about life I learned from Noah's Ark. Number 1, don't miss the boat. Number 2, remember that we are all in the same boat. Number 3, plan beforehand. It wasn't raining when Noah built the boat. 4, stay fit. When you're 600 years old, someone may ask you to do something really big. Number 5, don't listen to critics. Just get on with the job that needs to get done. Number 6, build your future on high ground, which may not be ground you are familiar with. Number 7, for safety's sake, travel in pairs. Number 8, speed isn't always an advantage. The snails were on board with the cheetahs. 9, when you're stressed, float a while. 10, remember the ark was built by amateurs. The Titanic was built by professionals. And number 11, no matter how bad the storm is, when you are with God, there's always a rainbow waiting. I know. Thank you, guys. Know that I love you, I support you, and I encourage you.